Are you surprised at all by this backlash?
Not really. I mean, Martin Scorsese's movies always push the envelope, and from Goodfellas to, Mean Streets, and, his movies are very extreme. They like to show extreme behavior. I think the difference here is it's not a criminal underworld or the mob that he's showing. It's the financial behavior on Wall Street and on the margins of Wall Street that goes on, that's part of the daily lives of America. And I think that we're still smarting from the economic collapse that many people have suffered from, not from what's the period that's depicted in the movies, which is the 1980s, but it's mirroring very clearly what's gone on in this country recently. And so I think emotions are pretty raw about it. The other thing is that the movie does not clearly come down on, in judgment of Jordan Belfort. Jordan Belfort gets off in this movie, spoiler alert, he gets off with 3 years in prison, a slap on the wrist, and at the end of the movie, he's teaching seminars to people and teaching that behavior for money, which I believe is what he's doing today.
Well, that might be one of the problems, is these people not really being sufficiently punished. I mean, you knew at the end of Goodfellas and the end of Casino, other Scorsese movies about bad guys, they were either dead or in prison or
right,
living in the witness relocation program. DiCaprio himself is also taking some heat beyond the film for this video making the rounds. It shows him seemingly praising Jordan Belfort as a motivator. Let's take a listen.
What separates Jordan's story from others like it is the brutal honesty in which he talks about the mistakes that he's made in his life. I've been in his company many times, but there is nothing quite like Jordan's public speaking and his ability to train and empower young entrepreneurs. Jordan stands as a shining example of the transformative qualities of ambition and hard work, and in that regard, he is a true motivator.
Sharon, you say this clip has incensed some of your readers.
Ouch. Yeah, we've had very angry comments on our site. Look, we are very much about people who understand the film industry. So there are people who are defending Martin Scorsese, saying if you expected something other than satire, if you expected something other than that, than what you're getting from Martin Scorsese, which is lots of sex, lots of drugs, in some cases usually you get violence, but extreme behavior, and it's a movie. On the other hand, you do have people saying there's a lot of it. It's a 3-hour movie, so there's an excess of the excess, and that also the fact that it's not really what Leonardo DiCaprio says in that video. There's not a lot of recognition of his behavior in the movie.
Well, that's Scorsese, right? He doesn't really judge his characters. That's one of the things that marks his work. In Raging Bull, he would beat up his wife. Scorsese
is an artist. He's one of the great cinematic talents of our era, and we're not going to sit here and tell him how to make movies. That wouldn't make any sense. But I think what people are angry about is that they feel that there isn't more of a message here. And I do think that it's connecting to the pain that people have been feeling through the last economic collapse that we've gone through.
Very quickly, Sharon, this film's already earned 2 Golden Globe nominations. Does this controversy help or hurt the Globes and the Oscar chances?
Well, I will say this. We broke a story that when this film was shown at the Academy, at the Motion Picture Academy, there was a little bit of a contretemps when a member of the Academy confronted Martin Scorsese after the screening and said, "Shame on you," to him. So there are members of the Academy who feel that this is too much, that they don't like this. But this is not the first time that that's been the case for a Martin Scorsese movie. What I will say is that movies that are divisive, and this is a movie that is divisive, some people love it, some people really are not comfortable with it, those movies do not tend to win Best Picture.
Interesting. Of course, there was The Passion of the Christ as well, perhaps his most controversial picture.